Hello everyone, welcome to After Effects Lesson 3 Part 2. So this is pretty much the last new technique or topic that I'm going to talk about in After Effects. Of course, After Effects is such a powerful software and there's no way that we could get through everything that we could possibly do in After Effects in the short amount of time that we can devote to it this semester, but hopefully we've made a nice foundation and everyone is comfortable with the software and is able to use it for basic animations and compositions. Now, just because I said that this is the last new lesson I'm going to be going over in After Effects does not mean that this is the last time we're going to use After Effects. We are going to use After Effects when we start Premiere, which is actually coming in this lecture series in the next video. So this is not the last time you're going to see or use After Effects, but this is the last new topic I'm going to be covering. So this one is actually going to be pretty quick, and I'm just going to talk about how After Effects allows you to move not only up, down, right, left, so in 2D space, but we can also function in 3D space. So pretty much we can make any element function in 3D space when it comes to like logos and layers, shapes, and things like that. So I'm going to show you how to make something look like it's in 3D and convert it to 3D. Okay, so on Blackboard, there's a folder called Revolve 3D Demo. As always, make a folder on your external hard drive, download the footage from Google Drive, save it in that folder. When you're ready, save your project as Revolve 3D Demo in that folder, and then we can go ahead and import that footage. So we're going to import patchwork.mp3, Revolve, and space. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll start a composition using the space.mov setting. So new comp from selection. We'll rename it to Revolve 3D Demo. Okay, so just to give you a reference, this is what we are aiming towards. It's pretty short, but I want to point out how the sign is moving instead of left to right or up and down. It looks like it's moving away from us. It spins three-dimensionally. We can see the different angles of the sign, and then it comes toward us. So this is all working in 3D space. Okay, so let's go ahead and also bring our Revolve footage, and we are going to start first by turning on our 3D switch for our Revolve.mov. So if you don't see your switch buttons right here, it could be that you're still on your mode. You have your mode activated. So if you have the modes panels activated, let's make sure that we click on toggles and switches and we get to our switch interface. So right here we had our motion blur, but right at the end we have our 3D layer. So what is it? It allows this layer to be manipulated in 3 dimension. That's exactly what we want. Now notice what's going to happen once we click on this switch and make 3D active. So if we twirl down, right now we have our basic transform properties. So we have anchor point, position, scale, rotation, opacity. That comes with everything. But once we turn on our 3D switch, let's see how many more options we have. So once we turn on our 3D switch, now we have X rotation, Y rotation, Z rotation, and anytime we are working in 3D space, another way we can refer to that is in Z space. So because if you think X, we move horizontally, Y, we move vertically, and then when we do anything 3D, like we call that like our Z coordinate, or we're moving in Z space. Okay, so before we get to animating our project, let's just look at what kind of movement our footage does in these like Z spaces in our X rotation, Y rotation. So you see, like as I play around with the X rotation, you see that it's coming towards us, the sign, and then similarly with Y, you can see that it spins so that you can see all the different dimensions, all the different angles, and which is different than just moving up or across horizontally in 2D. So you also see like our Z coordinate here that gives us our three-dimensional look now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these back to 0 so that we can start. Make sure that our position is at 960 X, 540 Y, so that we are centered. And let's start with our animation. So the first thing that I need to do is I want to move our anchor point. So the anchor point kind of functions in a way that when we do movements, it makes it so that the center of that movement is around this point. So as we saw in the video, we want when the sign starts to fold and come toward us, we want it to come down and we want it to come off screen. So we do have to move the anchor point down a little bit off the screen for this to happen correctly. So with our pan behind, or our anchor point tool, we're just going to take it and we're going to bring it straight down just so the tip of this green arrow is slightly right off the screen. Okay, now we are going to just move our position, our Y position, so that about a quarter of the stick is off the screen. So we can do about here. So right now I'm at 1388.5. Okay, so now it's just about setting some keyframes. So from 0 to 1 seconds, we're going to do a fade in on our space layer. So we're going to use the T key, open the opacity property, start at 0%, and then go to 100%. And since we're doing this, let's check. Our clip was about 7 seconds, so we can set our fade out points to while we're doing this. So 6 seconds, we have 0, and 7 seconds will be our fade out. And then we can shorten our workspace and our time navigator just so we can see a little bit better. Okay, so now to our keyframing of our sign. So we want it so that the sign comes up from the back, stops, spins, and then falls forward. So let's start with the X rotation. So the X rotation deals with how the sign comes forward, and then falls back down. So here's where we have to revisit our degrees that we learned in math all those years ago, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 360 degrees. So for our sine to come up, so like rise up from the back, we have to set our first keyframe for our x rotation at negative 90 degrees, because remember, right angles, a straight line is 180 degrees, a circle, a full rotation is 360 degrees, and then a right angle or the half line is 90 degrees. So we're going to set this to negative 90 degrees. We are going to set a keyframe. And then at the 2-second mark, we'll bring it back to 0 so that it pops up. And then we want it to stay upright until about the 5-second mark. So we'll set another keyframe there. And then we want it to fall at 6 seconds. So then we'll change it to 90 because we want it to fall forward. Okay, so now if we go ahead and watch this, see, we come up, we stay, and then we go down. Okay, so we're halfway there. So this is our x rotation. Now our y rotation is going to be a little more complicated. So now we want it to spin, but if you notice in the video, it starts spinning fast and then it kind of slows down. So that all has to do with the number of rotations. So this 0x, like this, that's the number of rotations we're going to want it to do in the time frame that we set. So at the 2-second mark, we want to see when our sine is fully upright, we want to see it. So we'll set our first keyframe for the y rotation at the 2-second mark at 0. And then at 3 seconds, if you remember from the video, first we started with a quick rotation, then we slowed down a little bit. So since we want full rotations, we don't have to worry about the degrees because a full rotation is 360. So we want it to go 360. So I want 2 rotations to happen between 2 seconds and 3 seconds. So at the 3-second mark, we'll just change this number in front of the x to 2. And then I want 1 more rotation at 4. So I'll just add 1. So that makes 3. So 1 more rotation there. And then let's look at what we have. Perfect. Okay, so the last step, I'm just going to throw my audio track in, and then I'm going to close the keyframes so I can see a bit better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, open the waveform, and I want to try and match. I want to try to match that faster tempo with when our rotation is moving a little faster, and the slower tempo when it's starting to slow down. So instead of starting at the 0 mark, I'm going to start at 15 frames, which is the halfway point between, like a half-second mark. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my track back to that half-second mark. Let's give it a listen. Okay, so that coincides pretty well. So then the last thing I have to do is just do my audio fade out, which we should all know by now. We've done it so many times. And that's pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and give that a listen. Okay, so now last thing we have to do is just export, render queue, render it, and then upload the final product to YouTube. So that's a little introduction to working in 3D space. Not too hard, but definitely pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed this, and when you're ready, click on the next demo video. Thanks for watching.